everybody to this first issue, I guess, of Cello. I am Peter Romney. I'm a cello teacher in St. George, Utah. And our aim is to feature a different cellist or a different musician or just a different human being here on Connect. And we're going to talk to them about music and what it's done for them and what it can just do for everybody. And today we have a long-term colleague of mine. This is the inimitable Margaret Romney. Margaret, how you doing?
I am doing great. I'm so honored to be on your first episode.
Very first. This is a favor that Margaret has owed me since she was a very mean babysitter in our childhood.
Yes.
So, yes, Margaret, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
I live in beautiful downtown Longmont, Colorado, which is just a few minutes away from where Peter and I grew up in beautiful Boulder. And I am a public speaking and leadership communication coach. My motto is speakership is leadership, but my first career and undergrad degree were all around cello. So I was a cellist for years and years, taught, played, performed, organized groups, had a lot of fun. But I am kind of a restless soul, a little bit of a somewhere between polymath, ADD, I don't know, something in between. And in my search for what was next for me, I ended up volunteering with TEDx Salt Lake City there as they were getting started and establishing themselves as an organization. And they suggested, how about you work with speakers? And there was so much about public speaking that was so similar to, frankly, Suzuki teaching. Like, both of them are all about making a connection between teacher and child, speaker and audience. There's so much about taking ideas and breaking them down into small bits so you know that the listener is really getting it. And there's so much about keeping a future vision of where you are guiding the listener by the end. In Suzuki, you've got that, concerto level at the end, and with an audience, you have that, what's the takeaway? What do you want the audience to think, feel, and do at the end?
So our aim on Cello Connect here is to talk to people about how music has helped them in their non-musical lives, basically. So Margaret, what you and I will do is just run through 2 or 3 questions about your musical background and things like that, and then we'd love to have you play a little bit of cello for us.
You got it.
So first of all, tell us a little bit about your musical background. First of all, do you have memories of what made you decide to want to play an instrument? And then tell us about a little bit about your musical journey.
You shared this with me. We had incredibly arts-filled childhood. We were super lucky. For one thing, it was the 70s. So there was no 70s and 80s. So there was no internet. There was only one phone in the house. And then our parents went on a kick for years of no TV. So there was not a lot to do. And so we really relished the times when Mom would take us to Shakespeare plays, take us to musicals. There was an old, almost like barn-like theater, Chautauqua Theater, where she would whatever it is that we went to see, she would prepare us beforehand. Like, these are the characters, this is the action, this is what's happening, these are the songs. We would, sing them, and then we would go to these arts events. We knew who Chagall was, we knew who Picasso was, probably could tell Beethoven from Stravinsky, maybe not Mozart from Haydn, but generally in our childhood, it wasn't a upper crust type of white glove experience. It was big paper grocery bags full of greasy popcorn. Like, it was everything. It was our life. And so I couldn't imagine not doing music. And in my elementary school, they had a great program where in 4th grade you got to choose an instrument, and they had decent people in teaching you and a good program. And it was what I always wanted to do. I loved listening to it. I was so excited to produce music. And yeah, and so here's actually, so when I was signing up for fourth grade, they said, what do you want to play? And I went to mom and dad and I was like, okay, what's the really, really big one? What's the huge one where you have to stand up? And they're over on the far end in the symphony. They're way at the back. Really, really big one. And mom and dad said, I think that's called the cello. I'm like, awesome. So I wrote down on the paper, cello. And then I get there on the first day and they hand me this not enormous instrument. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. That's not what I signed up for. Like, I wanted the hugest one. And they're like, darling, you are like the smallest person in your class and you take the bus every day. Like, you do not want that. And I was like, no, that is what I want. And they're like, okay, you'll get to play more solos and more melodies if you do the cello. I was like, okay, fine. Yeah. So anyway, that was my introduction to cello.
That your playing cello directly influenced my playing cello, because I don't actually remember mom and dad asking me what I wanted to play. So our brother Adam and I were kind of shoehorned into playing the violin for whatever reason. And then when we would go gigging at the Pearl Street Mall, collecting quarters from other folks, I had to stand there like a sucker, and I always got to look over and see my sister sitting down. So that's what I wanted. And so when we had a big move coming up, I told my mom that the cello sounded better in my ear or something, some line like that. And that's the truth of the matter, is that I just wanted to sit down for once.
I love that. And her heart was warmed for so many years, and then she heard the truth.
Yep. I don't think I broke that to her until I was like 16. It was way too late.
Good call.
I mean, you've talked a little bit about this, but I wonder if you might expand on it a little bit more. How cello playing has influenced your non-musical professional life?
In quite a few ways. So there's always the discipline. Like, after 5 hours a day of summer camp at Meadowmount with 98-degree temperatures and 90,000% humidity, like, I know I can do hard things, or knowing how to teach yourself, like taking apart a concerto and putting it back together again and figuring out how to get from one end to the other. I feel like it's those same skills now as an entrepreneur when I have to learn a new email platform or marketing plan, or there's a lot of technology that goes into being an entrepreneur. Learn how to do my QuickBooks or intricate PowerPoints, and the technology. I'm like, I know how to take things apart and put them back together. I know I can do that. But it's really about the connection. It's really about a feeling in the room. And one thing that I learned was about performing. When I was in high school and for a long time in college, I hated performing. Like, my bow would shake. I felt traumatized. I would have to walk off the stage sometimes. Like, it just went really, really badly. And then there was an experience. I was living in Boston. It was Christmas time. I hadn't been in college for a few years. I also hadn't been practicing for a few years, but I had a community there of people that I just loved and adored. We had babies together and supported each other, and play groups and dinners, and really we just loved each other. And it got to be Christmas time, and one person from my community came to me and she's like, oh, Margaret, you're a cellist. Please play Ave Maria with me. Please play the Bach Ganud Ave Maria with me. And I was like, okay, I'll do it for you. And so I got out my cello and I practiced. And the whole time it was really for her. It was for this community. It was to give, and it was a piece I loved, and I knew it really well. I'd studied it, from the time I was I learned it when I was 12 or something. And so when I got up there to play, all I had in my mind was the thought of the audience and the magic I wanted to give them with this piece, and how I could shape this piece, how I could pause on this note, stretch on this one, swell through this one, vibrato on this one, pull back on this one, to give them this transformative experience. And it was just magical and breathtaking. You could, everybody in the room could like just feel that. And what I realize now, that that lesson, that being on stage, whether you're performing or speaking, it's about the audience. It's about what can you give the audience. It wasn't about me and my technique and did I practice enough and did I have the right fingering and did I, you know, how was my bow technique and did I, all of that was out the window. All it was about was what can I give these people. And that's the, like the pillar, that's the pillar of my practice with public speaking now, and how I guide people. What is the gift you're going to give your audience?
Awesome, thank you. So what? What do you want to play for us today?
Oh, I'm going to play a really simple thing. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to take me a second to set up my cello.
I am going to play Amazing Grace.
Terrific. Thank you, Margaret.
You're so welcome. I'm so glad you're doing this. Cello Connect. Awesome. So excited to see who you connect with.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. We'll catch you again on the next Cello Connect.